welcome back to the conversation. Tonight, we are being joined by Nigeria's Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Abubakar Kyari, to discuss the pressing issues of rising food costs, escalating food inflation, and the perceived food shortages that have gripped the nation. These challenges have been major catalysts for the recent street protests that we see in Nigeria in the last 4 days, as citizens now voice their concerns over the high cost of living, deteriorating living conditions, and their struggle to feed their families. Minister Kyari, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you.
Things are really getting to a concerning stage. Nigeria's inflation had gotten to a 28-year high. Food inflation has never been has never gotten to this point in the last 20 years. And someone will be wondering, under your watch, what really went wrong?
Well, we're just starting to see the effects of what has happened in the past. I wouldn't want to start blaming what has happened in the past, but there is certain factors that have created the challenges that we face now. Production levels are low in terms of agricultural production.
We are not producing.
We're not producing
as much as our consumption.
We're not catching up with the population growth. Nigeria grew 5.4 million last year. We're not catching up with that population. So that's another factor.
So in 1 year, we've had how many millions of people?
It's not only 1 year. It's not only 1 year.
We are reviewing
it's been all the losses of production has happened within for the past 15 years.
What happened to our storage silos? What happened to them? I thought over the last government said we have food banks where we have grains in storage. What happened to that? They've been depleted.
What we met was 53,000 tons of assorted grains. And that's, I've said it several times. And that was when we distributed, by Mr. President's directive, to distribute 42,000 metric tons from the strategic reserve.
But that is supposed to impact, isn't it, on the price of the commodities? But as much as 40,000 tons, that's quite a awful lot. But then the prices have not changed yet. Instead, the prices are soaring.
Let me say something, Sean. The challenges are there. They have been there. We have climate change and, issues to do with input costs. That has happened within the last recent times. And then, of course, we've had only one harvest. This government has only experienced one harvest, which is like the dry season harvest, which we have done considerably well, much more than what has happened in the past. Even in the wet season, the one that we just met as a government, had a marginal increase over what was harvested in 2022. And it's there, the records are there, the data is there, produced by the Nigerian Agricultural Extension Research Liaison Services, NAILS, and it's there. But for a fact, that what I'm saying is that the population explosion, we have not been able to keep up with the kind of the explosive nature and even the shrinkage of the land mass for agriculture. Land is shrinking for agriculture. Flooding is there, habitation is there, insecurity is there. So when you look at the land available for cultivation has been shrinking over the period and over the time. And even farmer population, look at the aging farmer population, for instance, where we have younger people are not going into agriculture now. So when you look at all these factors that have really cut down on production. But I'll say something here, Sean, and maybe for the information for the public. The Ministry of Agriculture takes responsibility for what has happened. However, I would also look at it from the other point of view, that the states also have their own departments or ministries of agriculture. Even the local governments have departments of agriculture. So it's at the three, tiers of government that have responsibility towards what is happening, the challenges that we face now.
When you say you take responsibility, which is supposed to be a reasonable thing any government or anyone who is in charge of anything should do anyways if there are failings. But what would you say is your major failing that cost us these rising food inflation?
Well, like I said, look at mechanization, for instance. Mr. President has just announced today in his address on the issue of the mechanization programs that we've lined up. We have 4 right now in place, and 3 have passed through Federal Executive Council, and 1 is in the process. Now, the basic implement today in agriculture today in Nigeria is a hoe, and that's an archaic and an antique implement, because there's no any industry in this wide world that even manufactures a hoe. So when you look at it, it's that we're still in the back ages using hoe. That's why the mechanization program has.
Let's summarize this for the average person to understand tonight. There was a time that it was touted to be food sufficient in terms of rice, and that they say, oh, we do not need the reliance on importation any longer. Can you give us a figure? How many tons of rice, millions of tons of rice, do we consume yearly in Nigeria today?
Well, about 9.5 million tons.
And we're said to be producing just about 7 million.
About 8.5 something.
So we have a shortage of about 2 million.
No, not up to 2 million. It's less than 1 million.
That we have the shortage. So
yeah,
how do we
about
balance
900,000?
So where do we get it from? It's importation, isn't it?
Not deliberate importation, but maybe smuggled rice. We all know that rice has been smuggled in the past. But that is not to say that there is. But when you look at the global, in terms of food consumption, we produce almost 200 million tons of food in Nigeria. 60 billion is cassava, 40 million is yams. That's half of it. So, but when you look at grains, it's where we have the challenges, especially maize, where maize now we have, there's a competition between animal feed and also for human consumption.
Now, so the question now is that the reality is that we are not self-sufficient in our food production. That's the reality.
Well, when we started, we looked at, of course, Mr. President had already identified that when he declared emergency on food security. And even when he appointed us as minister, myself and my colleague, Senator Aliu Sabi Abdullahi, he renamed the ministry from Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development to Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security. And that's for emphasis, to show that there is a deliberate attempt to make sure that the security, the food challenges that we're facing, we need to tackle those. And that's why there's a lot of emphasis on production, and emphasis on, we thought it was the affordability issue at that time when food inflation was rising. But as we went along, we looked at it and saw the availability issue creeping in. I'll give you an example. In September, a lot of people have approached me to say, look, import rice, because you won't have rice for Christmas. Christmas came and gone, and then there was rice. No, there was no complaint about rice. Same thing, Easter is coming, Ramadan is coming, there won't be rice, but there was rice. As I'm talking to you, we still have rice in the market, but the issue of the affordability is there, and that's because supply and demand has started taking shape. So when there's low supply and high demand, and like I said, Nigeria is growing rapidly. You won't understand. I mean, look at the population explosion in the urban areas now. We're expected to reach about 400 million by the year 2050. 2050 is only 26 years
so
old.
We have a big population, but yet we are not able to feed ourselves.
Well, we're not keeping up with
so our production is lower than our population growth.
The rate of production is lower than the rate of population growth.
So would you say that we have food insecurity at the moment?
We have food challenges, yes.
So in the real sense, the food that we have in the market at the moment isn't what is causing the food price, the price of the commodity. Is it that we have shortage at the moment, which is making the prices go up, or what exactly? Because if you say there's a pump in some food, you release food into the market, yet the prices are still going up.
Well, let me say something as well. Where food is produced is not necessarily where it's processed. where it's processed is not necessarily where it's consumed. So there are steps that you go through, and at all these steps, there are issues. Infrastructure, for instance, is an issue. Road infrastructure, even farm infrastructure is an issue. And this is what Mr. President seeks to achieve and address those challenges.
Now, when we look at how things have spiraled, well, it doesn't look like this government has been able to turn back the wave in which things are going. It's spiraling and fast. Just in 1 year of this administration, things have gone so berserk.
Yeah. Well, let me say something. If you're trying to build a 2-story house, for instance, you do a very low foundation, right? But if you want to build a 50-story building, then the foundation will be deep. And by the time it will take for that foundation, for the 2-story house, you see it, quickly. So what Mr. President is trying to do here is giving us directive that we need to do what is right. We need to, one, do mechanize, look at those, and then involve the private sector.
Have you done that? Have you started mechanization?
We have ordered. I mean, it's not like chewing gum, you don't buy it off the shelf, right? You have to make an order. And I went to even Minsk, I went to Belarus, I went to the factory where we ordered for 2,000 tractors and 9,000 other implements. Trailers, plows, harrows, planters, boom sprayers, about 9,000 pieces of them. And I went there and I saw them in production with 330 horsepower.
When are they due to be
we have they have produced about 500 now, and within the next 60 days, I believe they will be here. So
I was very happy with the kind of collaboration I saw with some state governments and initiatives that some state governments were making. Kebbi State, for example, and Lagos State with the lake rice. And you will see some states taking initiative. You see what Governor Bago in Niger State, what he is doing.
Yes.
But the question is that there are those who will say we have lost our identity as a nation. In years around when I was born, we could be proud to say cassava, cocoa, and palm oil. These are some of the produce that Nigeria, you mentioned the name of this country, we are second, third producers across the globe. But again today, what can Nigeria say, or what would the Tinubu government say it can bequeath to the rest of the world in terms of agric produce?
Well, cassava, we're on top there. In fact, right now, as I'm speaking, we have a team that is going to unbundle the cassava season with a lot of intervention from the frontline states of cassava in the southeast and the north central and the southwest. We are getting in touch with one of the largest outgrowers of cassava, a lady named Yemisi out of Ogun State, Oyo State, which has a robust processing and a robust outgrower scheme of cassava. And we're working also with Harvest Plus and IITA. We've spoken with them, and we are going to roll out within the next 2 weeks. Because we're starting to plant the cassava stems in the south in about 2 weeks' time, in the south in about by end of August, first week September. So cassava is really huge. Yam is also we're number one in the world.
Ethanol you can derive from
You can
cassava.
do ethanol, you can do sorbitol, you can do starch, you can do, and then edible cassava is
and
also...
And you get FX from there. I mean,
yes,
if you are able to export them.
Precisely.
But I mean, that's another problem, exportation. There was a time that this nation under the Buhari government wanted to export yam tubers. But when it gets to where the destination, those yams were spoiled, they were bad. So we're getting something right, but we're getting the other end of the chain wrong.
Yeah, there are a lot of issues along the chain, infrastructure, even port infrastructure. So we need to have to look into those things and see how we can fix it. Way of doing things properly. taking care of the yam. The yam that is going out of Ghana is from Nigeria. And all they do is they sit down and clean each one of it and package it very well and send it out. So
unfortunately, a tuber of yam sells over 6,000 naira as of today in Abuja.
Well, it has come down though. We appreciate that, right?
As of Friday, the current price in the market, Minister, and I will be glad if you
well, I know from Jos, we have...
As the Minister of Agric, maybe you have some tuber of yams. Yam is gold now. If you have some tuber of yam, I will be glad to collect and cook tonight. I mean, we have food prices in the commodity as of Friday last week, this week or last week, because we're in the weekend.
Well, the new yam has come out and is gradually coming down. That for a fact, I can send you some facts on that. Potato is also coming down. Tomato is coming down. But within the last 2 days, because of the protests, I learned that in the south, tomatoes are rising back up again.
Look at, I mean, I'm afraid you might not be able to see details of it, but incrementally, Minister, prices of commodities, largely food, the question will be, how do you want to bring this down? And how soon can this be done?
Well,
so look at it.
Yeah.
So you look at the ones that concern you directly. And this is a comparison between 1 year ago, Minister, and as of today. Look at rice, 50 kg. We understand that the president has ordered that they should reduce manually the price of rice to about 40,000. That's what I understand. It used to sell as 55,000 1 year ago, selling about 85,000 in the market. Beans, one model, as popularly called in local parlance, 2,000 it used to sell, is selling about almost 100% higher in price. Yam tuber, 6,000, like I told you, is to sell 1,000. Eggs, 80 naira, 200 naira is being sold for one. Roasted corn that we love to eat, 100 naira used to sell, double the price now. Sugar, 38,000 1 year ago, 81,000. And I mean,
I wish you would have percentages on the side so that you could see exactly.
Yeah, all the percentages are almost 100%. They are doubled in prices.
Well, 55,000 should have been 110,000 for rice. So it's 85,000 if it's 100%.
Yeah, but it doesn't.
So, I mean, I'm not saying that
things are still bad.
Yeah, did I not admit that they are bad?
But how do you want to turn?
So what we're saying is
around?
Production. We need to increase production. It's the case of supply and demand. And let me also say something. The seasons that we find ourselves now, it's a cyclical issue that you have in agriculture. This is what is called the lean season, and this is between June, July, and August, before the next harvest. And that is why Mr. President has decided to import rice, maize, wheat, those staple food, sorghum.
It has been imported now.
No, it's been, I mean, he opened it up today. He mentioned it in his speech, right?
When are we expected to receive those importation?
Well, as soon as all the fiscal issues have worked out, and then Ministry of Finance and Customs have issued out the fiscal aspect of it, and I think.
In your estimation, Minister, if those produce are brought into the country, how impactful will it be on the price of commodity?
Well, like I said, availability also impacts on price.
But when you have it flooded, if you flood the commodities in the market, naturally the principle of supply and demand should play, and it should crash the price.
Precisely.
But that has not been happening, Minister. And
no,
this
but
is exactly my point.
It hasn't been imported.
No, I'm saying that there are some food prices. When you release over 40,000 tons of grains, it didn't affect the prices.
Do you know the kind of importation levels we're talking about? It's almost about 300,000-400,000 metric tons per month for all the 4 and 5 crops.
For how long will this go?
Only till harvest.
Okay. And this
that's why
talking about March
just a
next
short.
Year or
No. It's about October, November this year. That's when we're going to have the harvest.
So we are expected.
And we're expecting a bumper harvest.
Hopefully, bumper harvest.
Hopefully, yes. Barring any other natural issues.
God forbid.
God forbid.
So, for example, we should be buying yam as less as 2,000 naira when we have a bumper harvest. Or rice as low as 35,000 naira if you have a bumper harvest.
If we have a bumper harvest,
Are you giving me an assurance tonight, Minister?
Well, I'm just giving you the assurance that there will be a bumper harvest. And let me say something. There are other factors as well in terms of what determines price as well. We have a lot of deficit in the infrastructure of road infrastructure for farmlands, for instance, access to credit, for instance. And that's why right now the National Council of Privatization has directed the restructuring and recapitalization of Bank of Agriculture. That's to provide credit to smallholder farmers and even large-scale private sector. Even the private sector is not even aware that there's some of these facilities available for them to enhance their production. Insurance, for instance, like what we see, issues of flooding and other climate change issues. Insurance is one aspect that under the ministry we have the Nigeria Agricultural Insurance Corporation, which gives premium at 50% what the other commercial insurance companies give.
Now, are you worried about a narrative or a perspective to this, that if it's not because we have an extreme food shortage problem, and yet there is an impact so much on price, even when we're not producing as much, the prices didn't escalate or soar this bad. Are you worried about a possible manipulation by some forces in the market?
Let me say something. Let me also say something. A lot of rural communities that are into, agrarian rural communities don't have financial institutions in their areas, right? And agricultural commodities are used as a store of value. Whether you call it hoarding or whether you call it by whatever name, in the local areas, you would find families keeping agricultural commodities as a store of value. So whenever their need arises, festivities for weddings and whenever the need arises, they take out 10 bags and sell it off just to cover their needs, right? So those are there. They're in multiple. So they're there all over the place. But there are big hoarders as well at the same time. Last time we have experienced those ones in Kano, for instance, that the government went around looking and were able to see some warehouses locked up with grains inside. So
have those persons been prosecuted?
Yes, I think they have been, because it's under the Kano state government. I think they have been.
Because people and those grains that are supposed to be distributed, we see that people are rebagging and reselling and selling. So there is a loss of trust that those food items that the government said they should go out, to the average citizen, some people are circumventing the process and taking them to a profit advantage.
Well, that's some of the issues that I keep talking about. There's a human factor as well. So which, where does the federal government or Mr. President, Mr. President has directed that these, palliatives should be given out free of charge, and then somebody turns around to rebags and sells it. What else can you say about that? These are the things that we're looking at, and it's sad. Like now, the ones that Mr. President has directed that it should be sold at 40,000 will go to, especially in the first instance here, will go to the public servants, where you have proper data, you have NIN, and where once you buy at that, you won't come back to buy again. So
you have created a system of even and fair distribution.
Well, no, that's just for that. Like I said,
for the 40,000 naira, yeah.
For the 40,000, for the ones.
So civil servant will be prioritized.
Well, it's out there. I think it's out there in the domain. There's the public servants, right? So for the first instance, and then there will be others that will be sent to the states as well. So it's not an issue of you must give it to somebody. I mean, whether you now, if you say you're going to decide like this one is the first instance for the civil servants.
There are those who are saying, why is the federal government not pegging the price of these commodities, or especially food? Is it possible?
have such a system that it's very difficult to monitor. How do you monitor? If you peg a price and if it's not available, what does it mean? You know.
So it's availability that is the issue here.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
But the little that are available,
yeah,
that those who are taking chances, an advantage of a possible perceived shortage.
There is another aspect that we're looking at. Yes, there's another aspect that we're looking at in this cultivation. This, like I said, this is the first time we're doing the major rice cultivation, for instance. We're looking at costs of production. Try to see what is the fair price at the end of the day. So once you do that and you can come up with those cost structures, then you can actually, say, look, prices shouldn't be more than this.
So federal government is now looking at fixing the prices, at least for this crisis period.
These are issues that we will look into, but we're looking at commodity boards, commodity exchanges, in trying to regulate prices. But there's another aspect that we're trying to do now because of the importation that we're doing, the guaranteed minimum price for farmers, because we don't want to, discourage farmers from cultivating, because once they hear there's going to be importation, it's going to affect production, right? So we're also going to have a system where we're going to have a guaranteed minimum price for the farmers. We're going to have surplus offtake from the farmers so that we put it into the strategic reserve.
Minister, I'd like to take you to task on two things quickly before we go. Has this government, or does this government have a plan of what produce it wants to be known to bequeath to the world, which was one of the things that I mentioned earlier. And as you mentioned, some countries of the world, you can easily tell what is synonymous to that country in terms of food production. Maybe you have three produce. Does this government even have that plan at all?
Yeah. Soya is one.
We want to be a big soya
big one. Yeah, Nigeria is well known for good soya.
No, but what I'm saying is that in terms of the entire value chain, from production to processing and to exportation, does the Tinubu government have a plan in terms of what it wants to give to produce for Nigeria first and give to the rest of the world? We used to be known for our groundnut pyramids. We used to be known for cocoa in the south. We used to be, the north produced those days materials, cotton, for the textile industry in Kaduna State.
Look at this.
So the question is that what are we going to be known for, Minister?
Well, let's be self-sufficient in trying to feed the country.
Fix our crisis first.
But it's not bad for you to aim high, because once you aim high, you say you want to export this item, then it means you must be self-sufficient before it goes to export. But we have been looking everywhere, and we're trying to see how we can incentivize the farmer, give credit to the farmer, incentivize private sector. This thing has to be private sector driven, and private sector would choose what they want to do.
In the last 1 year, Minister, how many farmers in the private sector has this government created?
Oh, I would say quite a bit, because we have impacted a lot on terms of input support. We have done a lot of fertilization. We did herbicides, insecticides, variety of inputs. And even now, like I said, we're trying to do at least nothing less than 50 to 60,000 hectares of cassava within this planting season. So we're mainly going to use private sector.
Minister, on a final note, just in 30 seconds, can you look into the camera and promise Nigerians, tell Nigerians that so and so month, you promise that Nigerians will start feeling the effort of this government? We want to know, because there's a fixed amount of salary that Nigerians get, but they cannot use it to buy food.
Like I said, we have already started feeling the impact. The impact of, like I said, go and see, tomato has come down, potato has come down.
So you are saying by Christmas, majorly food prices would have crashed.
I would come here with you and you show me that table again.
That's a promise.
That's a promise.
And I wish you the very best,
Thank you very
and
much.
your colleagues.
Thank you.
Been a hardship in the land,
yes.
but if you are giving us this hope and these assurances,
we are determined. We are determined to achieve.
We will hold you by your babariga, Minister.
Yes, it's quite big for to take you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Senator Abubakar Kyari is the Minister of Agriculture and Food Security. Thank you so much indeed for your time.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you. I appreciate it.
We'll take